6:30. Are we ready? Okay, I, Cassandra Phillips, President of the Duncanville ISD School Board of Trustees, call this meeting of the Duncanville Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of Board of Trustees, that the meeting has been duly called and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Good evening. Our mission at Duncanville ISD is to engage, equip, and empower all scholars to achieve their unique potential. We will now go into closed session. Okay, we are back from closed session. We will continue with our agenda items. We will now move to take action on items from closed session. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to extend one-year term teacher contract to the listed employees for the 2021-2022 school year?
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Janice Savage Martin moved, and who was the second?
Jackie.
Trustee Colton seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Board. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to extend one-year term professional contract to the listed employees for the 2021-2022 school year?
So moved. Second.
Trustee Vera Cruz moved, and Trustee Fahey seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Board. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to extend one-year term administrator contract to the listed employees for the 2021-2022 school year?
Would you repeat that motion?
Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to extend one-year term administrator contract to the listed employees for the 2021-2022 school year?
So moved.
Trustee Colton moved, and Trustee McNeely seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Board. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to one-year probationary teacher contract for the listed employees for the 2021-2022 school year?
So moved.
I heard Trustee Fahey.
And second.
Okay. Trustee Fahey moved, and Trustee Savage Martin seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed? None. Motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Board. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to one-year probationary professional contract for the listed employees for the 2021-2022 school year?
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Vera Cruz moved. Trustee Savage Martin seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? No. Motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Board. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to one-year non-certified contract for the listed employees for the 2021-2022 school year?
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Savage Martin moved, and I have Trustee McNeely on the second. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? No. Motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Board. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to take no action on the contracts for the listed employees for the 2021-2022 school year?
Second.
Trustee McNeely moved, and Trustee Vera Cruz seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed? None. Motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Board. Okay, Trustee Vera Cruz will lead us in the invocation as we start the opening ceremonies.
Thank you, Madam President. If you would just bow your heads with me and join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we welcome your presence here for guidance, wisdom, and discernment as we begin this meeting of the minds. Help us to engage in meaningful discussions and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your spirit to guide our decisions and process information that is shared tonight. Bless our board, leadership team, educators, parents, and staff as they continue the good work to ensure a welcoming and safe environment for all. Above all, Lord, we pray a blessing of your hand over our students and that they continue to progress in their studies and to finish strong. May we always live, love, and learn through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Trustee Vera Cruz. Trustee Colton will lead us in the pledges.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pledge to Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Colton. We will now move to the superintendent's report. I will now turn it over to Dr. Smith.
All right, thank you, Madam President, and board members and staff. Have a couple of items this evening to report on under Superintendent's report. I'll begin first with just reporting on the COVID vaccination update. Of course, on last Friday, we did our second Pfizer dose. We had on site about 955 vaccinations were provided last week on site. And so this initiative, it included our staff, several staff members, spouses, parents of students, and we also extended that to city employees and partner school programs. It was a great partnership with the Parkland Hospital System. It was a great experience working with them. They were very receptive to the needs of Duncanville ISD, very well organized, very well put together. On Friday, again, we provided a little over 900, like 955 individuals received a vaccination, and that included around 300 employees. And so when we look at our previous survey, we had approximately 400 employees that received the vaccination outside of this opportunity. So that puts us somewhere in the neighborhood of about 700 staff members in our district who are already vaccinated. And so it was a goal of mine early on to have 80% or so of our staff vaccinated, and we're working toward that number. So it was a great opportunity for staff, and it was a great partnership and great experience with Parkland. The next item that I had was to just update you on one of the programs that we put in place this year. We got some news coverage over the course of this weekend. You may remember a year ago, kind of taking you back a year ago, when there was just several things in the country that was going on. And so Duncanville, we took a very proactive step and proactive measures in addressing some very sensitive topics. One, you all may remember, we engaged in a district-wide study with our leadership team on a book study, and the book was called Courageous Conversations About Race. And that was and has been an awesome experience in our district. There have been so many things that we've learned about each other, and that we've learned about our students, and having some very hard, difficult conversations. But it's a good thing to have those conversations because it makes us better. And so we did that. The other thing is I charged Chief Hampton a year ago. I said, I want to look for an opportunity to build relationships with our student athletes, our police department, our police officers, because we were growing our police department, and I wanted them, meaning our students, to have positive interactions. I didn't want the only interaction that they had with a police officer to be a negative one or a punitive one. And so we started brainstorming, and there was a program that she was familiar with in another school district. And so we kind of used that as a model, and we made our own. We Duncanvilleized it. And so that takes us to where we are today. And so we have a number of our police officers who are building relationships and are attending athletic events, and not just passively attending, but actually literally engage with students, know the student's name on a positive level. Using sports sometimes as a vehicle to build a relationship is a real positive thing, and it breaks down the barriers. And so having our police officers at those events, and it's not just athletics, they're at elementary schools, they're all over the district partnering in several different ways. And so Sergeant Lambert, he attends baseball practices, and not just the games, but they're at the workouts and they're at the practices, and sometimes he's even in a uniform. And so you can imagine how that makes the students feel to see him dressed in a uniform. And again, we just want to build trust so that they can see our police officers in a very positive light and have those positive relationships. We have police officers that attend not just the varsity level sports, but freshman boys basketball, girls varsity basketball. Chief McGinty works with our football team. Officer Hilton works with the Hi-Hats in Central Elementary School. And so this is just an effort to get our police officers out in our schools, interacting with students in a very, very positive way to build those relationships. And you never know what that and how that will benefit down the line. So I want to share this brief video with you that really captures, it's an abbreviated video that captures some of the news coverage that we had this past week.
People that I've grown up with, my parents, my family, have all given me experiences of officers in the past, at traffic stops, this and that, and how ruthless some of them are.
The public doesn't want to trust an officer with the situation, which I understand. That's what's out there, is, what's out.
Are you referring to the news coverage on Channel 11
People that
last
I've
night?
grown up with, my parents, my family, have all given me experiences of officers in the past, at traffic stops, this and that, and how ruthless some of them are.
The public doesn't want to trust an officer with the situation, which I understand. That's what's out there, is, what's out there is a lot of negative, but there's also a positive.
While there's no way to wipe away all the heartache and pain of the past, there is a way to work on the future.
How you feeling, man? You have a good day?
Opening the dialogue and creating a trust factor has already been a big hit.
We're definitely in a time where I think kids need all the help they can get with the mental aspect.
Sergeant Lambert has become another coach.
Keep working at it, man. Spend the summer doing it. You'll be all right.
Mentor, cheerleader, and friend.
Come on, guys.
Someone who will go to bat for all these young men, which has definitely played a role in their mindset.
Don't judge an officer just because there's stuff going on around the world. To get to know them.
Don't judge a book by its cover, not by their appearance or their name tag.
Thank you. And Sergeant, can you wave your hand back there? He's back there. If you could just kind of give your hand clap. But again, this was just an effort to build those relationships and build that trust. This was a particular highlight from this past weekend, but again, this is all throughout our school district. So just really proud of Chief Hampton, your leadership, and our officers taking the vision and making that happen, and looking forward to seeing this grow. Can he hit a fastball? I don't know if he can hit a fastball. He just needs to be a quick draw. That's what we need. So, Madam President, that concludes Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Thank you, Dr. Smith. We will now move to recognitions. I will turn the meeting over to Tiara Richard.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. We will start with our recognitions this evening, and I'm inviting a few guests into the room. We'll let some of the family and administrators also make their way into the back of the room. So these 4 students before me and their teachers with them are students who are from all grade levels who participated and scored very well at the District Art Show. Normally the District Art Show is one of those events where we are inviting family and friends all out to the high school to enjoy this district-wide event. So this year, because of the restrictions that are in place, we did limit the attendees to the actual art show. But this coming Thursday, there will be a virtual art show where we'll show off more than 400 art pieces that were on display and celebrated during the event. But we wanted to bring some of this artwork and these talented students to you tonight to show you just a little bit more about what we saw at the art show. So we have students from all grade levels. First up on my right, we have Miss Amber George, who is from Hyman Elementary School. She finished with first place with a watercolor. Miss Amber, would you step forward and show the watercolor to the board? Turn it around. So Miss Amber George here is a very poised young woman and a very talented artist. And so she finished again first place for Hyman Elementary with this watercolor artwork. And so we wanted to show you just a little bit of that today. Thank you, Miss Amber. And up next from Daniel Intermediate, we have Miss Liliana Cyrick. And Miss Liliana had also finished first place for Daniel. And as you can see, it's some of the sort of artwork that is very unique and distinct. I actually remember seeing this at the art show last week and was really impressed at the work that she's done. And this is, again, a first place finisher. And she is a 5th grade student at Daniel. Thank you, Ms. Cyrick. And then for our middle school, we have here Miss Bailey Ross from Byrd Middle School. And this is acrylic paint. And she actually drew this free form. So this isn't trace. This is her actual free form drawing and her own artwork that she's done. So Miss Ross here shows off, and she also finished first place for middle schools. And then last but not least, we have our high school student, Miss Carolina Fletcher from Duncanville High School. She is a junior, so we will see more of her artwork in the future. She finished first place, actually medaled, with the vase competition, and this is a pencil artwork, so that is her skill level. It's really amazing. And again, this is just a sample of the amazing artwork that was available on display at the art show last week that you will see this week in the virtual video that the Fine Arts Department is pushing out on the district YouTube channel. This is a virtual opportunity to look at all of the artwork that was on display there. And again, we wanted to welcome these students, these talented teachers, and their parents for joining us this evening to really show off their students' artwork and just, again, the amazing, amazing artistic talent of students here in Duncanville ISD. We wanted to congratulate them and thank them for attending tonight.
I just want to take a moment to say congratulations to everyone here, the students, the parents, the teachers. It takes a team to make this happen, and you guys are just, you're amazing. Oh my gosh. Keep doing what you're doing. You are amazing. Thank you for sharing your gift.
I'd like to ask our artists to please step over here to the side for a quick photograph, the 4 artists, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so this next recognition is one that is long, long, long overdue. This is a group of talented scholar athletes who have been impressive over and over again, time after time. And so last year, when they won the state championship, they went down to San Antonio and brought home their 11th state championship title. Our Pantherites did not get an opportunity to celebrate like we wanted to. We didn't get to bring them to a board meeting before you and say, these girls and these young women have done such amazing work. This coaching staff has done such amazing work. And so we wanted to make sure that we took the time before many of these seniors graduated to thank them, to celebrate them, to let them know that we are so grateful for all of the amazing work that you have done. Not only are these just amazing athletes, these are also scholars. These are students who are doing amazing work in the classroom too. We have 7 academic all-state scholars here on this team. We have 8 graduating seniors, and all of them have committed. All of them have committed to college. And so you can't have this sort of celebration and honor without hearing from the person in charge, the person who leads them through every challenge and shows them how to overcome. So I want to invite Coach Howard up for just a moment to say a few words.
First of all, good evening, everyone. I would like to thank you all personally for the support that you all give. I can? All right. That's all right? All
The
right.
microphone, please, if you could adjust the microphone so that we can hear. You can be captured on the,
Can everybody hear me better now?
thank you.
There we go. I would like to thank the board president, and everyone here for all of the support that you give the Duncanville Panthers. Each and every year, you all show up to the games, even through the playoffs. We saw a lot of your faces. We heard your cheers for us, and we truly appreciate that. We thank you for the opportunities that you give these student athletes to be great. We thank you for the opportunities that you give them to learn in a school district that is set for success. We appreciate you all, and we have a token of our appreciation that we would like to present you all.
Madam President, you want to receive on behalf of the board?
Sure, I will.
On behalf of the Duncanville girls and boys basketball team, we present this ball to you all.
I know Madam President, sorry, I'm short. Madam President will have some more words, but I did want to present on behalf of the district this plaque for you to hang in your office to celebrate your win, your championship, and your legacy. Coach Howard.
All right.
Thank you.
7 academic all
But that's huge.
Okay.
You're criticized for being excellent.
Okay, ladies. Let me just say thank you, and board, this is, okay. 7 academic All-Americans. That deserves another round of applause, y'all. I'm like at a loss for words because you all are so amazing. And we just want to say congratulations. Don't stop. Coaches, you all helped them get here. Their parents, their family, from our athletic director all the way down, everyone has helped you. And we appreciate you for sharing your gifts. When you move on from Duncanville, keep that same fighting spirit. Keep learning, keep fighting, keep winning, because you got it in you. So, and we're so proud of you. I'm over here, my glasses are fogging up. Sorry, y'all. We're very, very, very proud of you, and we can't wait to see what the future holds for you. So go out there and be great, because you are. Gosh.
As we transition, we're going to take a couple of photos of the team to the best of our ability on our space over here. Ms. Barriger will get a photo of you off to this side. They're used to doing these photos.
I'm trying.
Oh, she's taking the ball.
You got to dribble all that way. Come on, let's see you dribble.
Thank you.
You.
And last but not least, the reigning champs. All right, so as our athletes continue to come in the room and get lined up, and I feel really short. So again, last but not least, we have the reigning 2021 state championship basketball team, our Duncanville Panthers. I think one of the Dallas Morning News headlines says it best: 3 seasons, 2 titles, 0 playoff losses. So this history-making run was one of the best ever. The only other team to win 3 back-to-back-to-back championships was in the 50s. So that tells you that this is a legacy. It's the start of something that's really, really big. It's actually the continuation of something that's been really great over time. And so I'll just turn it over to Coach Peavy and allow him to say a few words, please.
First, thank you very much, Dr. Smith, school board. These young men are very good basketball players, but they're better young men. Okay? They're great students, great citizens. But we all want to thank all of you for all the support that you give us, the community, the school board, all the success that we're having. We cannot do this without you and the things that you allow us to do. And we all just want to say thank you very much.
So on behalf of the district, we have a couple of plaques for you. Not only do we have the state championship winning plaque, we also have the Dallas Morning News Coach of the Year plaque for Mr. Coach Peavy, as well as Max Prep's National Coach of the Year. And we have some medals for you that we'll give out to you at the end of the meeting, but we wanted to make sure that we gave you an opportunity to say a few words, Madam President.
All this greatness in this room. I'm like blown away, but like Coach Peavy said, you all are not just great basketball players, you are great young men. And we are so very proud of each and every one of you. We're excited to see what your next chapter holds for you. For those of you that are graduating, and then for those that are still coming up, continue that spirit, that fighting spirit. Keep that same drive and commitment that you have, because everything that you learn here at Duncanville is going to take you throughout your life. It will, at some point, everything that you learned here, you'll use in life later on. So just keep being great, okay, guys, because you all are awesome, and we are so, so very proud of you. And coaches, we appreciate you all for shaping and molding them and being that figure in their lives that will help them grow into young men that everyone can be proud of. and athletic director and his team. It all trickles down. So thank you all for being such a great team. Thank you, guys. Have a great, great season coming up. And those of you that are graduating, go out there and be great. Be great. We love you all. Thank you.
We'll have the players step over to take a quick photo with our president.
Congratulations. Yeah.
And then last but least, while the athletes are lining up for a photo, I did want to mention, we can't talk about this sort of legacy and what it takes to really go deep into the playoffs like this year after year without giving some recognition to the athletic department, as Madam President has mentioned. So we have several of the athletic department leaders here in the district right here. And so we wanted to make sure, when you have football, basketball, track, you have all of these sports advancing deep into the playoffs every year. They're having to work really hard to make sure they're taking care of people, that they're getting things done, and so that matters. And so we wanted to make sure that we also recognize Mr. Weaver, Mr. McQuaid, and the entire team for all of their hard work. Thank you, and that concludes our recognitions.
Thank you, Mrs. Richard. We appreciate you. We will now move to communication from citizens to discuss pending agenda items before the board. And we do not have any communications from citizens regarding a pending agenda item, so we will now move to take action on the items discussed in closed session. We will now move to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
We're gonna take that off, or we can?
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that, just that quick.
I'd like to make a motion that we table, or how do you say it? Remove 7B for a later meeting after more information.
Okay, we have a motion to remove item 7B from the consent agenda until we have more information.
So moved.
Second. Trustee Vera Cruz moved and trustee Savage Martin seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Board. We will now move to action agenda item A, Board of Trustees Education Hour, and the presenter is Cassandra Phillips. Okay, as Board President, I am required to announce the name of each board member who has completed, exceeded, or is deficient in meeting the required continuing education CEC hours. Yes.
Yeah, we've still got it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped that, and I thank you. That, I have such an awesome board, always keeping me on my toes up here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so now that we made the motion and approved the consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended? So moved.
Second.
Trustee Savage Martin moved, and Trustee Fahey seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion passed, 7-0. Thank you, Trustee McNeely, for catching that. Okay, so we are now moving to action item, agenda item A, Board of Trustees Education Hours. And the presenter is Cassandra Phillips. As board president, I am required to announce the name of each board member who has completed, exceeded, or is deficient in meeting the required continuing education CEC hours. Cassandra Phillips exceeded the required continuing education CEC hours. Janice Savage Martin exceeded the required continuing education CEC hours. Janet Vera Cruz exceeded the required continuing education CEC hours. Jacqueline Colton exceeded the required continuing education CEC hours. Carla Fahey exceeded the required continuing education CEC hours. Dr. Lasagna Ivory exceeded the required continuing education CEC hours. And Phil McNeely exceeded the required continuing education CEC hours. Do I have a motion in regards to the Board of Trustees education hours?
I make that motion, and we are really good.
We are. I agree. Trustee Savage Martin moved, and Trustee McNeely seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed? None. Motion passed 7-0, and I have to agree. We do have an amazing board. Thank you all. We exceeded our requirements. That's awesome. Thank you, Janice, for pointing that out. I'm sorry, Trustee Savage Martin, for pointing that out. Okay, we will now move to action item B, interlocal agreement between Dallas ISD and Duncanville ISD for meal service for P-TECH and Early College High School at Mountain View College. And the presenter is Ms. Andrea Fields.
I'm going to follow suit so you can hear me more clearly. Good evening, Madam President, board members, and Dr. Smith and waiting audience. This evening, I am pleased to present for your consideration and approval request for an interlocal agreement between Duncanville Independent School District and Dallas Independent School District for meal service for our P-TECH and Early College High School scholars who attend Mountain View College. Just to kind of make sure that we all have the right context about Dallas College, this includes campuses for Dallas College of Brookhaven, Cedar Valley, Eastfield, El Centro, Mountain View, North Lake, and Richland College. They have several colleges that are part of the Dallas College group. The documents you have in your board book include the board item, of course, and I believe they start on page 70 through 79. You also have the rationale and the communication from Dallas College, the district financial information, and then lastly, the interlocal agreement. Board, just as a reminder, Duncanville ISD has been privileged to partner with Mountain View College for several years now. And as our students have matriculated through the college program, our child nutrition staff has provided breakfast and lunch meals for our students who attend classes on the campus. In early 2021, Dallas College and Dallas ISD approached the district regarding Dallas ISD being the single service provider for meals, not only for Duncanville ISD students, but those who attend the college campus, and that's other school districts, and I'll talk about those in just a moment. The communication was sent to other school districts who are part of the Dallas College group. These districts include Dallas ISD, Irving ISD, Lancaster ISD, Richardson, DeSoto, Grand Prairie, and Carrollton Farmers Branch. And you may be wondering right now, why would we bring you this interlocal agreement proposal? Well, board, it's really about providing a hot meal for our students each and every day. Currently, all the Dallas College school districts provide meal service to their own students. So we've been providing our meals to our own students. But as you can imagine, if you've ever had a high school or have one right now, they do not regularly eat breakfast or lunch. And the participation rate has been exceptionally low for Duncanville ISD students. So to provide a centralized service with the ability for our students to have a hot meal served, Dallas College Group requested the assistance of Dallas ISD to provide meals for the P-TECH and early college high school students. Prior to presenting this information to you this evening, our district team has studied our data for the past 2 years of our own students' participation rate, along with looking at the financial impact this would have on our child nutrition department. We looked at the pros, the cons, and determined if we even wanted to present this proposal to you tonight. Ms. Donna Thomas, who is here, our child nutrition director, and I've met with the Dallas ISD child nutrition director, and I have reviewed this request with Ms. Pamela Thomas, who is the principal of Collegiate Academy, which the majority of these students who attend Mountain View are a part of. Ms. Shalante Payne, who is director of CTE, who works with our P-TECH program, our senior leadership team, and we all support this proposal. For context, I want to share that we have approximately 200 scholars who attend Mountain View College. Over the past 2 years, we've provided meals for 3 to 4 students every day. Now, out of the 200, 3 to 4 students have taken advantage of the grab-and-go meals that we provide for our students. I will share with you that we have been committed to those 3 and 4 students every day because we knew if they came by to get the meal to take, they needed it. So we have continued to do that. We also provided microwaves for the students because it's prepackaged. So on site, Duncanville ISD provided microwaves for our students to warm the meals. But you can imagine it's not a hot meal. And you can also imagine that if you're a student who's going to Mountain View, that you can drive. So that means you can stop by, get some fast food. And many of the students, Ms. Thomas shared with me, do pack their lunches and take them with them because they're going to be there all day long. There is no cafeteria at Mountain View, so they are dependent upon us. And a lot of the students that attend Mountain View are also Dallas ISD students. So if we were to provide meals to all 200 students, and I want you to look at the financial information there, if every student ate every day for 180 days, if they ate breakfast, our reimbursement from the Texas Department of Agriculture would be approximately $81,000. You'll see that for the breakfast. And then for lunch, it would be approximately $132,480, combining for our year's reimbursement for these 200 students, $213,840 if every student ate breakfast and lunch every day. We're only serving 3 or 4 students. And so we want to partner with Dallas ISD so that they can provide the hot meal service. If you approve the agreement, this would mean Dallas ISD would provide the meals for our students, and they would be reimbursed for those students. Now, 3 or 4 students, and this is really a trend across the entire state of Texas, really across the country, where students have the opportunity to have free breakfast and lunch. They don't always take advantage of it. And so they would be reimbursed for those 3 or 4 students, just as we have been. If all 200 decide to eat the hot meal, breakfast and lunch, Dallas ISD would be reimbursed for those. In our research, so you'll also know that Dallas ISD, of course, is going to be the meal service provider. Irving ISD and Richardson and Richland Collegiate have already agreed. They've already agreed to have Dallas ISD provide the meals for them. Garland, DeSoto, Grand Prairie, and Carrollton ISD are still in discussions. Recently, as we talked with the gentleman in Dallas, he said that their boards are still studying it. And Lancaster ISD has determined they will not participate. And the reason they're not going to participate is because Cedar Valley is right across the street from them, so their students can just go back and forth across and go to their cafeteria. Of course, we've been providing transportation for our students to go to Mountain View. In your rationale, in your packet, we include the rationale from Dallas College, and it speaks to the pros for offering a partnership with our district and creating a single source solution for meal services for our students. And this would begin in 2021, 2022. And the agreement, if you have looked at it, it does go through 2024, 2025, but our legal counsel has reviewed it. Texas Department of Agriculture has said we can do it, and we have a 30-day out. So in essence, if all of a sudden we decide we don't want to do it anymore, we can end it in a 30-day notification. So we're not stuck till 2025. Again, Board, I remind you, this is really for us to try to provide another way for our students to have a hot meal. One of the things that Dallas ISD is going to do, which is exciting, they are going to have a food truck. And the food truck will go to all of these locations on a rotation throughout the week. And you can imagine how exciting that's probably going to be for the students. They also have the ability, based on their staffing, et cetera, with the number of people that work for their department, to provide these meals for the students. So lastly, we're asking for your approval for the interlocal agreement between Duncanville ISD and Dallas ISD for meal service for our P-TECH and early college high school students at Mountain View College. I'll entertain any questions, and if there's something that I can't answer, Ms. Donna is here.
Thank you, Mrs. Fields. Do I have a motion in regards to the interlocal agreement between Dallas ISD and Duncanville ISD for meal service for P-TECH and early college high school at Mountain View Community College?
So moved.
Trustee Savage Martin moved and Trustee Colton seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion for Mrs. Fields at this time?
I do, Madam President.
Trustee
Is the breakfast and lunch, do they change weekly, or is it the same menu?
We have about, this year, I think Ms. Donna would say, we probably have had 8 different menus. They meal plan for the entire, really, year. What has happened while we've been in COVID, of course, as you can imagine, some of the items that we would typically get, particularly when we were really in the midst of the beginning of the pandemic, we could not get those. So a lot of the things we've done, you all know we've been feeding students grab and go. We're still doing that every Tuesday. So we know there's a need in our community. Yes. But to answer your question, there's a menu that has to be approved by the caloric intake, all of those things. So it changes. I think there's probably about an 8-week rotation. So it's not the same thing every single day. No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Trustee
I'd
Savage
just like
Martin.
to say I think it's a great idea to do this, and probably welcomed by Ms. Donna back there. I think it's a real great idea for both Dallas ISD, Duncanville ISD, and our students.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion? We thank you all for what you're doing for our students.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? No. Motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Board. We will now move to action item C, approval for out-of-state travel for the boys and girls basketball teams. The presenter is Dwight Weaver.
Good evening. Good evening, Madam President, School Board, Dr. Smith. I would like to present to you for your consideration and approval for travel plans for the boys and girls basketball team. Not only do we compete at a state level, but we would like to compete at a national level. Nationally, some of the top teams are playing in these different tournaments, So we want our teams to go there to present themselves so that we can compete nationally. We also have students that are on the teams that you met tonight that are ranked nationally. We have boys on the basketball team, but at the present we don't have any girls on the girls team. But we want them to compete on the national level. So tonight we're asking your permission for their travel out of state. If granted that permission, the boys would travel December the 9th in the Hoop Hall West to Phoenix, Arizona, and on December the 11th in the Holiday Hoop Fest to Salt Lake City, Utah. This trip for the Panthers will be funded by the host teams. The flights, hotels, everything is funded by the host team. Girls, if they're granted permission to travel, it will be December the 3rd, and they would play in the She Got Game Classic in Washington, D.C. This trip will be funded by sponsors, and the girls will do fundraisers and different things for the hotel and food. Also, in talking with Coach Howard, this trip to Washington, D.C. will also be used for the girls to get experience with the different museums there and to learn a little history. If granted tonight permission to travel, we're asking for your approval to travel out of state during the 2021-22 basketball season. Are there any questions?
Second.
Sorry, I'm going to go through the motions. Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Do I have a motion in regards to the approval for the out-of-state travel for the boys and girls basketball teams?
Second.
Trustee McNeely moved and Trustee Janice Savage Martin seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion for Mr. Weaver at this time? No? Okay. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? No. Motion passed 7-0. Thank you so much.
And thank you all for all you do for athletics.
Thank you. Thank you, Board. We will now move to action item D, quote related to DHS library furniture, and the presenter is Dr. Sam Nix.
Good evening, Madam President, Board, and Dr. Smith. I'd like to bring for your consideration the item in front of you is the purchase intended to update and expand the Duncanville High School library space to a more flexible and accessible and inviting space for teaching and for learning. The innovative environment will cultivate a sense of pride and ownership and foster experiences that will impact all stakeholders. From DHS administrative teams that collaborate in the space to DHS teachers who have designated integrative, engaging lessons for students who seek an inclusive space to work and to meet. The Duncanville High School Library is a hub of activity year-round, and it is utilized by the entire district and community members. So the purchase of this furniture would allow for just a more engaging environment for our students for teaching and for learning, and is in line with our campus improvement plan goals. Goal number 1, focused on student success and performance. Goal number 2, focused on students and community performance. And then goal 4, focus on employees and organizational improvement and performance. So for your consideration is just to ratify the approval of the purchase of library furniture for the Duncanville High School Library. It'd be my pleasure to entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Nix. Do I have a motion in regards to the quote related to DHS library furniture?
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Fahey moved and Trustee Savage Martin seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion for Dr. Nix? Trustee Fahey.
Yes, this is furniture only for the library. It will not touch the Collegiate Academy. This is the downstairs part.
That is exactly
library.
correct. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Absolutely.
That's what I thought.
Trustee Savage Martin.
Do you happen to know when it's last been updated, the furniture?
No, ma'am, but we can get that information for you.
It may be a long time ago.
It looks like it's been quite a while,
think so.
yes.
Trustee McNeely?
That's correct. But one of the things for expansion is, you know, the great things about libraries, the interesting things about libraries is the reduction of the number of books that are being offered because of technology. And so a lot of those bookshelves that are currently there and currently being used, potential there could be to remove some of those shelves, which would increase the space availability. So no. No, sir, not losing any classrooms. The total cost is $88,373. Yes, sir, very.
Great questions. Any other questions, comments, or discussion for Dr. Nix? Trustee Colton? Your mic's not on.
I think it's a great idea. How long will it take to get the furniture in? You know, if the board should approve the item?
Yes, ma'am. We have to have the furniture received by June 30th to be with this fiscal school year. So that's when it has to be received. And so if approved, the next step is to make sure that the company can indeed meet that deadline. Yes, ma'am.
Great questions. Trustee Veracruz?
Thank you, Madam President. So you mentioned that it's used quite often. Can you share a little bit about who goes down there, or how is it used? Or do the classes come down, like a government class? I mean, do they come in?
Everything that you mentioned, absolutely. Students, teachers, youth. I see Dr. Henry knows that. It is heavily used by classrooms and teachers, teacher collaborative spaces, students working on projects, meetings, community meetings that come in, parents meetings. I was just there this morning meeting with several parents in the library that were meeting there. So it's heavily used. Absolutely.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Great questions. Are there any other questions, comments, or discussion for Dr. Nix? Thank you, Dr. Nix.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? No. Motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Board. We will now move to action item E, laptop purchase for instructional staff, and the presenter is Dr. Brian Brown.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. It is my pleasure to present to you this evening for your consideration the purchase of laptops for instructional staff. As you're already aware, many of our instructional staff laptops are in excess of the industry expectation of 3 to 5 years of service. We have approximately 700 laptops in service that are at least 6 years old, and we want to gradually phase these out in order to build a constant refresh schedule for our instructional staff. The funding for this purchase would originate from the local technology budget at a cost of $1,100 per device. These would be purchased using the state DIR contract with Dell Computers. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Do I have a motion in regards to the laptop purchase for instructional staff?
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Janice Savage Martin moved and Trustee Veracruz seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion for Dr. Brown? Trustee Ivory.
My question is, what is the process of selecting the staff that will receive the laptops?
That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked that. We have not established the exact process for that, but we would start with people that's laptops are not currently functioning in the way that they should and replace those first. And so we do have quite a backlog of people that need updated equipment. And so we would start with them, and then we would move on through, anybody that broke at that given time. We would want to have these by the 1st of June, and so as people started to leave, we'd hopefully be able to replace them as they left, or as they come back in July, be able to have them on hand right away and hand them out as needed.
So the criteria is if they've had their laptop serviced several times, or the ones that are in the
Correct,
shop
yeah.
now?
So we're going to go for the problem, the quote-unquote problem children laptops to start with. The ones that have been in and out of the tech center several times would be definitely, we'd use our Incident IQ help desk system to be able to look for that, to find a laptop that's been, in for service 3 times. That's the one we want to
Okay.
get out of the fleet, if you will.
So data-driven selection.
Absolutely, yeah.
Got it.
That's where we'd start, for sure. That's where we'd go.
Thank you.
Great question. Trustee Fahey.
So at the end of the year, normally, don't teachers turn in their laptops?
Only if they're leaving the district.
Okay, only if they're, okay, good.
Trustee McNeely.
I'm just curious, why does it say we purchase 100 to 150?
We are using every available dollar that we have, and we don't quite know exactly what that number is going to be, so that's why I gave you a range.
So we're approving the biggest figure, or what?
Yeah.
What are you asking us for?
I'm asking
What I
for
wanna know.
up to 150.
So how much money are you asking for?
That would be 165,000.
Okay. And
They're at 11.
We've got 150 that need them, don't they?
Oh, easily. More.
And it's coming out of your budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But we also would want to replace them all 700 of them right away, because then we get in the same boat that we're in right now, where that would be nice. Yes, absolutely. I'd like to do between 150 and 200 a year over the next 3 or 4 years. It'd get us in a nice refresh cycle.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion for Dr. Brown? Okay, thank you, Dr. Brown.
Thank you.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And opposed, none. Motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Board. We will now move to information and discussion items. The first item is the budget review, and the presenter is Dr. Ed Bigby.
Madam President, I have a few comments as Dr. Bigby comes up, just
Yes, sir.
logistically. Each of you have the 2021-22 budget presentation information. Want to make sure you have that in front of you. That's what Dr. Bigby will be referring to. And then also, just to give some context here, each year as we begin to build the budget process, we go in with the goal of, 1, adopting a balanced budget. The second thing is we are looking at making sure we align our budget with key initiatives that we have in the district. And then the third thing we want to do is always maintain a healthy fund balance for our school district. And so when we look at the timeline and the events that are really in front of us, the last week of June is typically when we approve our budget. We have a July 1 budget in our district. And so annually at the end of June, typically it's been that last week of June, we approve and adopt our budget. With that in mind, we basically have about 4 meetings or so left to be able to adopt the budget. Just kind of think about that. It's upon us. And so we've got some very, very difficult decisions to make in order to maintain that balanced budget, in order to align our resources with key initiatives and to maintain that healthy fund balance. And so I wanted to be sure that as we work our way through the budget process, that we really address some of these difficult questions, get feedback from you as a board, which direction you want us to go in, and make sure that we really focus on maximizing at least what we can control. We know we can't control what's going on at the legislature, and we know we don't have answers to a lot of those big questions now, but we still have to move forward in passing a budget. And also keeping in mind that once the legislature makes their way clear, we always can come back and amend our budget. But in keeping with that July 1st deadline, we're going to really go into that process not knowing a lot that is really key information for us. So this evening and moving forward every meeting, I want to make sure we take the time and look back at what some of the board priorities were that you directed me and our team to fund. And so we're going to walk through those. And then also looking at where we are currently and what our needs are as we work our way through the budget process and look at some challenges that we have moving forward. And then really just taking a look, in the future and what still needs to be addressed in our district. All of that information that we're going to share here is going to be helpful in giving you details and providing context so that you can have a sense of some of the difficult decisions and choices that we have to make moving forward. And we want to do that with as much as time as we can so that you can absorb, ask questions. There may be things that we need to go back and do some research on and bring you some more data, and I wanted to allocate time for us to do that. So we're going to include those kind of comments in our presentation as we move through the budget process. So with that, I want to turn it over to Dr. Bigby to begin the presentation.
Thank you for that information, Dr. Smith.
Well, good evening, Madam President, Board, Dr. Smith. Here I am again. We're going to review a few things that we presented to you already. And as Dr. Smith said, there's quite a bit of new stuff in here. So hopefully it'll bring you up to date on some of the legislation and some of the numbers we put together. Okay, next slide, please. This is getting smaller every time. The calendar, as Dr. Smith mentioned, we're not far from the end of June. By law, you have to approve the budget for next year by the end of June, or we can't spend any money on July 1. So that's always been the practice, and we'll certainly have it together by then, but it's getting closer as we go. Once again, there's not a workshop on here, but that's certainly something that the board can schedule at your convenience if you feel like we need to have one. Okay, next slide. Just a little graph of where we are this year. Currently, we have an ADA, or average daily attendance, of about 11,280. The hold harmless, and we'll talk a little more about that, provides us with 11,165. It doesn't hold all the student categories harmless, but it does our ADA. And that's about $3 million less than what we had budgeted this year. And, the first one's the budget, and the last one is where we are. And without the hold harmless, we'd be about $5 million less than what we budgeted. That'll vary a little bit as the year goes on, but typically that number goes down during the end of the school year. People get spring fever, and our attendance isn't quite as good. We're making a strong push to get it even better this year, but that number probably won't get a whole lot larger, the current one. Okay. I mentioned the hold harmless. This hasn't changed since the last time we talked. If you remember, we got a hold harmless automatically for the first 6 weeks. TA operates on 6 weeks, even though we operate on 9. They gave us the opportunity to apply for the third 6 weeks. We did that. Evidently, some districts didn't because they're creating a mechanism for them to possibly do it now. But we're held harmless for sure the first 3 6 weeks periods. In order to qualify for the hold harmless for the last semester, or the 4th, 5th, and 6th 6 weeks, we have to have a higher percentage or equal to the percentage of students that we educated on campus in October at the snapshot date. At that time, we were educating 34.1% of our students on campus. The whole idea behind that is they want us to get as many students back on campus as possible. I've been running just a preliminary for the last couple of weeks to see where we are, and we're about 4.5% above that for these. So we're still making a concerted effort to get as many kids as we can on campus. We have over 50% of our kids enrolled on campus. We just don't always get them here. So we're working on that, but if things will hold the way they are now, then we're in good shape to qualify for that hold harmless, which We really need to do that, so everybody, certainly not just my office, but all the principals, staff, truancy officers, all of the student services are pushing very hard to get our students here. The next slide kind of shows this as a graph if you're more of a graphic person. It's the same information. It just shows that those last 3 6-week periods are based solely on the 6 weeks. Doesn't really matter who's been here on the 4th and 5th, which is a little goofy, but that's the way they pushed it out there. And I think that probably the thought process is the more we get back on campus for the 6 weeks, the more we'll have that'll want to start the year next year on campus. Okay, next slide. And we're certainly not the only ones in that boat. There was an article about Dallas ISD. If you watched the news lately, Dr. Hinojosa made a big push to get all the seniors to come back for the last 9 weeks. Well, they got about 43% of them that came back for that. Of course, they only need to be there for the 6 weeks, but they operate on 9 weeks, and that's when you choose your instructional style is in 9-week increments. You can see the article that was out of the Dallas Morning News there. An article from Austin, they're doing the same thing. They stand to lose $30 million if they don't make the hold harmless for the second semester. So it's important to everybody. As we talked earlier, and there were some of the legislators that wanted to hold us accountable for trying to get those kids back, and this is what that does. And we should be. I mean, we should be doing everything we can to keep them on campus. Okay, next slide. Appropriations bills, this is the same slide I've shown you before. The revenue estimate hasn't changed any. So it's both of the houses have a $7 billion deficit. The House did put a rider on their bill, and I thought this was interesting, that said the state would not be able to supplant any of the state funds with the federal funds. So that's in the House Appropriations bill that's passed the entire House. It's not in the Senate bill. So they'll come together in a conference committee, and I'm assuming it won't make it through there, but at least it's in there for now. Hopefully they can. It's kind of odd, some of the legislation that's come out of the House actually spends some of this federal money as supplanting state money, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't trust too many folks, but hopefully it'll go in there, and we'll get the money that the federal government said we should receive. Okay, next slide. Once again, the federal funding, the latest one is $5.5 billion compared to the 1.3 in the first one, and there's $12.42 billion for the Texas. And once again, the state has the ability to supplant our funds, state funds with it, and hopefully if they do, we won't lose all of it. But I know there's a huge lobby. I know HEB, the grocery stores, contacted all of the legislators and the governor and asking them to put the federal money on the campuses where it belongs. Don't know if that means anything, but there's some pretty high people that are supporting that. Okay, next slide. Some legislation, we talked about Senator West's bill. It's still moving through that would allow us to get funding for virtual educated students. House Bill 3 cleanup bill is House Bill 1525. There's an identical bill in the Senate. There's quite a bit of maintenance to the original House Bill 3 from last session, most of it dealing with career and technology funding for smaller districts and mid-size. There's an interesting one in there. If you'll remember when we first talked about a TRE, I told you then they're going to stop this somewhere, and they actually did last session. Well, now they're going after the districts that actually did this, and they're using M&O money to pay the INS. Because of the way you handled that, or you allowed us to, we never spent any of the M&O money on debt service. If you remember, we had a pretty healthy fund balance in debt service, and when we needed to supplement that for those 2 years, we used that rather than taking any of the maintenance and operation money. You allowed us to spend that on maintenance and operations, so you never spent any of the TRE money to pay down debt. So this won't affect us. The bill makes the commissioner go investigate all of these, and it's easy, very easy for us to prove out that we didn't spend any maintenance and operation money. our tax base now is high enough that we can pay our debt without even pulling any from fund balance. In fact, hopefully we can bring you a tax reduction in the INS rate this year and still cover our debt. And once again, it's because of what you've done and what is taking place with the debt in this district. The ones that can't do this, they have a debt schedule that looks like this. Each year their debt goes up considerably. Doesn't happen in Duncanville. It's been structured here to where it's flat. So as the tax base went up, the tax rate didn't have to go up, or we didn't have to spend any of that money. So because of some fiscal responsibility that you've shown over the years, it's made that possible, that the TRE money actually went in to do what we intended for it to do, and that was to spend on maintenance and operations. So even though that's in there, we're in great shape. I guess, well, there's some sour grapes there. In fact, the way the wording was, it was even presented that way. House Bill 3445 is the fund balance bill. If you remember, we talked about that last time, where Representative Huberty put this bill forward to where you could only have 110 days worth of unobligated fund balance. Currently, we have 196 days. He did define unobligated as to be the same as unassigned. And I mentioned this last time that we could obligate that money. I didn't mean to spend it, but we can ladder it out and show it as an assigned fund balance and remove it from the general fund balance and fall well within the 110 days. He was challenged quite a bit in committee on this, and he said, well, maybe 110 is not a good number. And maybe we need to make sure that districts, if they need to challenge this, they can. So he's backed down considerably. I imagine he's trying to get it passed because there's never been a fund balance bill passed. And if this one does, I think it'll be watered down to where it doesn't affect us and we can still operate fiscally responsible as you have in the past. Okay, next slide, please. Senate Bill 272 from Senator West requires that you as a board annually appoint a non-voting student member to sit on the board. It gets detailed about an application process where students can apply. The TEA is supposed to create the application. I think this will get a lot of play. I think you may see this one pass. So, once again, it's a non-voting member. I don't know that it's not a good idea. I don't know how you feel about it, but it's probably going to pass, so you might want to get used to the idea that it may take place. The CARES funding, once again, this is what's up in the air. Stimulus 1, we've already received that. We got $2,773,643 from that. We lost $2,773,643 of state funding because of it. So it was totally a supplanting of that. The next two stimulus bills that we haven't seen any money, Stimulus 2, we're allotted $11.8 million. Stimulus 3, we're allotted $26.5 million. Hopefully we'll see some of that. What we don't want to get into is the Stimulus 1, it was so detailed of how we could spend the money. If they go to a supplanting situation, it may be that there's so many strings to it, just like there are to most federal grants, that it's going to be difficult to spend it the way we'd really like to. But there's a real strong push out there to leave it alone, send us some money, and let us do what we need to do with it. So we'll see. I think from what I've read, part of the problem is the funds won't come to the state unless there's an understanding that they won't reduce the maintenance of effort to fund the schools. And there's a hang-up because they're about $1 billion short of doing that in higher ed. Their plan so far is funding public ed okay, but it's higher ed that's about $1 billion short. So they're trying to get a ruling of if they can combine those two, then everything's all right and they can move ahead with it. If they can't, then they're going to have to figure out something to do about the higher ed funding. But that's for the back room in Austin to figure out. Okay, next slide. Once again, the things that we're really focusing on right now is the funding for virtual students. That's, I think, is going to be important next year, and I think it's really going to be important in the years to come after that. I think once we've done this a little bit, it's going to be more attractive to a lot of students. CARES Act money, what's going to happen with that? What kind of compensation plan that you might want to deal with for 21, 22, and of course our trending of a lower ADA is a strong influencer of how we're trying to develop this budget. Okay. Next slide. Just to give you an idea, actual ADA is 10,880. If we can pick up 400 students, that's about $3 million. And so that's kind of our goal, is we'd like to add 400 students next year. I don't know that that's not a lofty goal, but you need to set your goals high. Hopefully we'll see more pre-K and kindergarten kids back. I saw the superintendent from Fort Worth was on the news this morning begging people to bring their kindergarten and pre-K kids to school. That's been a real strong dip. Those people have kept those kids at home this year. So we could come a long way toward that if we could just get our pre-K and kindergarten kids enrolled. And we're making a very strong push now to reach out and market to the neighborhood and bring those kids in. So they're worth, $5,400 in state funding, just like a high school kid is. So hopefully we'll get them here, but that's our hope anyway. Next slide. Dr. Smith always likes to see the good, the bad, and the ugly when we start talking about budget. And so this time, I gave him the worst case is if we continued our same ADA right now, then we'd be about $4.8 million less revenue next year than what we budgeted this year. When you project, you look at the demographer's numbers and what student services put together, that would add 55 ADA, so we'd only be $4.4 million less revenue. Optimistic or projected, and that's a 2% increase in ADA, and I think that's achievable. We'd move to 11,037 or 216 more. We would still be $3.2 million less revenue next year than what we had this year, or what we budgeted this year. And if we were very optimistic, I threw one of those in this time, that's a 4% increase, then we'd still be $1.7 million less revenue next year than what we budgeted off of this year. So you can see it's, you hate to be the Grim Reaper and the bearer of bad news, but we have to look at reality too, and that's where we are right now. Okay, next slide. I know in the past as part of the compensation, you've voted to give a flat payment to all employees, and just so you can see what that would do, if you gave $500 with benefits, that costs a little over $1 million. So if we took the optimistic projection of minus 3.2 less revenue, then that would put us at 4.3 less revenue. If you chose to give $1,000 plus benefits, that'd be a little over $2 million, and you can see with the optimistic one, that'd be $5.2 million less. And the $2,000 that you gave this last year would cost a little over $4 million, and that would put us at $7.3 million less revenue next year. And once again, I'm not trying to paint an ugly picture. I'm just trying to paint one so you'll have the information.
Yes, this is a very important piece to the big picture. You don't have to make a decision tonight, obviously, but just getting you the information so that you can begin the process and put it all together. Yes, this is an important piece to consider for the board.
No, it's.
Today. That's what the purpose of this is. The purpose of this, as I started out, I talked about how we've got up until the last week of June to begin to get prepared to adopt our budget. As we have looked back, we know we have about 4 meetings We can have more meetings if the board so chooses, but just in looking at the pure calendar, we have about 4 meetings left before we have to adopt a budget. So I wanted to take advantage of that, maximize our time, and now, moving forward, give you all the critical information that is necessary for you to make decisions. And so now is when we need to start thinking about what we want to do and how we're going to do it. And this is the start of that process. Absolutely. Yep. So here are my thoughts on that. We know what our enrollment is today. It's dipped significantly. So that number that you saw, 400 students, if we were able to get 400 students back, which obviously we cannot guarantee, so there's not going to probably be a point that I come to you and say, board, I'm going to guarantee that we're going to get X number of students back, and we can base our budget on that. It is going to be a guesstimation, and it's going to be based on the most relevant information that we have at that time. So, for example, right now we are pushing to get our pre-K students enrolled. So we're watching those numbers every day. And so as those numbers continue to increase, I'll be continuing to update you so that you know what that enrollment number is. We're continuing to make a push and do a lot of marketing to promote all of our students to come back. But here's the part that we don't know. COVID is still here, and we don't know how many students are going to come back. We don't know just yet how many parents are going to say at the beginning of the fall, you know, my student is still going to take this virtual option. So that's what's making this so difficult, unlike any other time. Any other time before, this is a non-issue. We're moving forward. But it is really difficult for us to be able to make those predictions. So we're going to use the best information we have and probably err on the side of being conservative, because we don't want to over-project the number of students that are going to show up, build a budget based on that, and then in October and September, we have a board meeting and y'all are looking at me saying, well, 200-300 of those students didn't show up. Now we're in a tough situation. So that's my thought and my idea, to get you thinking about these things so that we can get prepared to make some really tough decisions. Absolutely. We are. So as a board, again, over the next several weeks and months, we're going to continue to refine our numbers, update our numbers as we get the enrollment numbers up. So for example, I will be able to say, board, this month we got 150 students in. So then we'll make the adjustments on the numbers here, and we'll feel comfortable about building those students into our budget projections for next year. But the enrollment process is a evolving, ongoing process. So it is very realistic that we could get to July and some parents still have not enrolled their students yet. Absolutely. Correct. So what? Possibly. So what I would do in that instance is I would say, okay, board, here's what we know. So we gotta pass this budget on what we know today at this time, which may not be a really good number for us, but that's what I'm gonna recommend to you. Here's because we want to make those recommendations on what we know. Then I can say, However, here's what I hope will happen as we continue to try to get our parents to bring those students back to school, so that I can give you a picture of what that will look like. Also, keep in mind, we can amend the budget. So let's say we have to adopt that budget on that very conservative number, because maybe, not enough pre-K and kindergarten parents have enrolled by the time we get to June. So let's just say that that's the case, and then we have to pass that budget on a pretty low number. Well, we can always amend the budget as more students come in. So, no, I'm not comfortable at all. Absolutely not. But that is the situation that we're in. Yeah, I think what's best for us is we see, yeah, I got you. I think the first benchmark date that I would feel comfortable in giving some numbers would be probably the end of May, the first part of June, because that gives us time to push this marketing out, get parents to respond. I can update you on the numbers of students that have re-enrolled. By that time also, we've had a push to get our seniors to come back to school as well. So by that time, we also will have more numbers, because we're going to be looking at surveying our parents to see, hey, who's going to come back to school next year? And then that data will also help us. So that end of May, 1st of June would be my comfort level now of committing to you when we would give that number. Yeah.
And the session ends May 31st, so we may have some kind of an idea, unless they go into a special session, of exactly what they're going to do at the state level.
Trustee Fahey?
When is the last day employees have to sign their contract? No, to sign their contract.
It's 10 days after they receive it, 2 weeks after.
Oh, so they normally sign it before we've even decided on salaries or the check or whatever. Yeah, okay.
But they can still resign.
Yeah, yes. I've seen a few pages in the past.
So it's tough. It's a tough year. It's not easy.
And it's been building a little bit before COVID, because we're graduating more seniors than we're bringing in kindergartners. That's just the bulk of our enrollment is like a landlocked district that aren't making too many babies, because a lot of them, I'm sure, are going to charter schools, and then when they get up in the middle school and high school age, everybody wants to come to Duncanville for band and athletics and those, so we're seeing a lot of those come back. So we're a little upside down to where, like Frisco, they're growing from babies up, and districts with people moving in and building and stuff are typically have lower school age kids, but we don't have that. So we got to go get all of them that we can, and that's what Dr. Smith's talking about, the push to go make sure we're getting all the pre-K and kindergarten kids enrolled. Okay. Next slide. Fund balance, I altered this a little bit. I was putting something on you guys that you didn't belong on you. Our audited fund balance was $67.7 million. Last time I had the $2.9 million that we were short because of our enrollment as a fund balance reduction. Well, it's not really a fund balance when these are the things that you've told us to spend out of fund balance, You didn't tell us to spend anything about that. That's just what took place. So these are the things we spent this year that you told us to do out of fund balance. The $2,000 supplement, the technology purchases, $2.8 million, all of the personal protective equipment orders. So instead of the $10 million that I gave you last time, it's more like $7 million that you authorized us to do. One caveat on the technology purchases, we've applied for one of those wonderful federal grants, and we sent in almost $2.8 million. They cut it to about $2.3 million, and we still don't have the money. We still don't know if it's going to be a supplement or a supplant. Some of the things they cut, they allowed the purchase of the student computers, but not the charging stations and not the cases to put them in. Well, yeah, that's it. I kind of shook my head when they emailed me and said, "No, you can't put those on there." But anyway, hopefully we'll receive that 2.3, and hopefully it'll be a supplement. I really think it will be. I think that'll replace a lot of that you authorized us to spend out of fund balance. So that 2.8 will be, I think, more like 600,000. But until we see it, I applied for it in November, and we're still waiting on the funding from the state. Oh, it's a goat rodeo, I'm telling you. Okay, next slide. If, in fact, we get the stimulus money, we asked people to brainstorm. This is a very abbreviated list of some possible uses of the money. The main push is going to be catch our kids up from this year, almost a year and a half that we've been dealing with this. So credit recovery, we all know we need bilingual and dyslexia specialists that we don't have. Additional days of instruction. We've actually added 11 instruction days next year to our calendar, which will help. But there's also some options to add 30 days in the summer that House Bill 3 would fund half of if we have the funds to do that. So that's a possibility. And once again, this is pie in the sky kind of things. High coverage tutoring, either local or contracted or a combination of both, to really get down and work with our students. Social emotional learning supplements. As you know, this has been a strain on parents, students, teachers, everybody. Possibly added social workers, technology and infrastructure, air quality improvements, HVAC and filtering, facility improvements just to better the education process, and general education route buses. And once again, a lot of things have come in that said, hey, could we do this too? So this is not an exhaustive list, and it would certainly come to you before we did anything with it anyway. But we started putting a document together that so that we can give it to our legislators and say, look, this is what we want to do with that money, instead of just saying, give it to us and we'll go buy a new car. I think we need to present a plan to them, and that's what we're putting together now, a 2-page plan that says this is why we need that supplemental funding. Okay, next slide. We went back and looked at some things that you've asked us to do in the past that we were able to put in the budget. This is a list of most of those since I've been around. You asked for 2 academic counselors at the high school, 4 social and emotional learning counselors, 3 assistant principals at the high school. The last 2 years ago, the big salary increase that you approved, 2 social workers, 3 campus monitors on the middle school campus, 2 counselors, SEL counselors at Merrifield and Hastings, and then our health insurance adjustments that you've done every year to keep the cost the same for our employees. And that's an annual recurring cost of about $4.9 million. Very well spent. Just wanted to bring that up and let you know that we do want to hear from you, we do want to listen to you, and we want to do what you feel like we need to do with the budget. Okay, next slide. Some one-time things that you did, of course, the $2,000 supplement last year, the PPE, and then student devices. This is basically the list that you saw earlier of about $7.6 million. which was certainly a great deal for our district. All right, next slide. Recommendations that are ongoing, the choice programs, collegiate STEAM, the middle school academies, and now the leadership academy that you've approved. Career and technology expansion, that's been expanded quite a bit in the last couple of years. And we are working on the ROTC. We haven't got it all, anything finalized, but I know the curriculum people are trying to put a proposal together for that to bring back to you. So that's just some things that you brought to either the superintendent or to the SLT, and we've worked on those. All right, next slide, please. Some major needs that we've addressed in the past. Police cars, as we expanded, we had to buy more cars there. You spent $1.8 million on route buses in 18-19, those wonderful activity buses that you allowed us to buy, the new turf, cloud storage for those technology people that always seem to have something they need. Don't they? And the Teacher Learning Center, so far we've spent $2.8 million toward completing that. You'll see on the next slide that we're not anywhere near finished with that, but it's a major thing that's taking place. Six? Yeah.
They don't drive them home like on the weekend or at night, or do they?
No, sir. The only ones, myself and Chief McGinty, the chiefs are the only one that take the vehicles home on the weekends.
Okay.
And that's something that we can look at. I know in the past, at some police stations, they have the tarp that go around the fence that they cover up like they do at some of the, like up at the football field. They have a cover around the fence to kind of block that out. I'll look and see what I can find. You have a good point. That's a good point.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Some things that we know are out there. One's roofs on a couple of buildings, a little over $3 million. Route buses, and they keep putting this in the budget, and we keep taking it out. About $3 million worth of buses to catch us up where we need to be. Technology upgrades, and they keep putting this in the budget, and we keep taking it out. 1.5 million HVAC and air quality, and I got these numbers from the maintenance people. I didn't just grab them. A little over $8 million. Upgrade the energy management system, over $3 million. Substantial. The completion of the Teacher and Learning Center, we still owe about $6 million finishing that. And as we continue to expand the choice program, I can't put a dollar figure on it, but we're going to need to keep doing that just to stay competitive with our neighbors. So that's going to be a future need. And I'm sure you have a long list also. Okay, next slide. Well, we reached the point where we'd like to hear from you. If you've got some things that you want us to prioritize and try to get into the budget, or at least look at what it would be to put in the budget, and we're all open to your suggestions and ideas.
Thank you, Dr. Bigby. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Trustee Fahey?
Well, is this one we're supposed to discuss?
Yes.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I mean, I want something good for teachers, some kind of pay, whether it's salary increase or
I understand, they've had a hard year.
plain and simple. Mhm.
Madam President,
Trustee Veracruz?
I would like to see monies towards the bilingual and dyslexia specialist. That just weighs on my heart that we need to have those specialists available, and the bilingual, since we're growing demographically, and we need to have people on staff with that. We need to be more sensitive to that and have them on hand for the bilingual parts of our education.
Sure.
Trustee McNeely? Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Trustee Colton?
In looking at the possible uses of stimulus funds, I like everything that I see, and I think that we should prioritize monies for helping, the students. Since we've been in a COVID environment, we know that, learning or students have fallen behind those that have been virtual. So, all of these items, and in particular, any items that would help them, I'm for. I have a question regarding the HVAC air quality.
Uh-huh.
Is that related to COVID? In helping the HVAC system be more efficient?
Yes, well, and better filtered.
Yes.
Yeah, this has kind of awakened the thought that we certainly need to go back and replace the old units with more efficient ones, but also that are better filtration.
And is that, what facilities does it involve?
All of them that we can. Though we don't know how much money there's going to be, so they'd have to prioritize particularly the older ones that need the most, kind of like the computers. And like I said, we don't have any idea how much money we're going to have.
And also, let me see if Mr. Paterka can also add some insight to that, more details. Mr. Paterka is our Director of Maintenance, and he's really been looking and studying this. So wanted to see if he could provide some details for you to consider and think through.
Good evening. So the district, we have about 1,450 air conditioners across the board. About 900 of them right now are at or beyond their life expectancy. So it's really about replacing those. We're currently the ASHRAE, the American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, Air Conditioning Engineers. So there's a lot of moving parts there with some of their recommendations, but looking at getting the newer units with bipolar ionization, which we currently have at Acton and at Hastings, to help control that air and not need to bring in so much outside air. Because a lot of what the HVAC people are doing is they're trying to control humidity. It's not really about the heating and the cooling. It's about controlling the humidity in the environment, making it comfortable for everybody that's in that environment. The old units right now are using R22 Freon, which is running almost $700 a drum. The newer Freons are $125 a drum. Right now, the last 5 years, we're averaging about $17,000 a year just in Freon replacement. So just a lot of old equipment that's taking a lot of time to keep up and running. So just trying to replace that with more efficient, better filtered units for all the schools.
Thank you.
Are we replacing anything?
I'm sorry?
Are we replacing anything, or are we just keeping it running?
We're currently not replacing units, no. We're just swapping out compressors, changing out heat exchangers. We have not been doing a lot of change outs.
We don't have a plan to do something to something every year?
No, no, sir.
How come we don't have a plan like that?
We need a plan like that.
Well, let's get one.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Paterka. Trustee Ivory?
Yes, I'd like to see, as a district, I'd like to see us use some professional development time and money for diversity training. That would include diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also some professional development and instructional materials to incorporate Black history from EC to 12.
Okay. Thanks.
And I would like to see money go toward social and emotional learning for students and teachers. I know we have that in place already, but if there is a need, because it's been really hard for so many, and whatever it takes to get our students back, to get them back on track mentally, teachers as well. Any other questions, comments, or Trustee Colton?
I have a question regarding property taxes. Is now an appropriate time?
Yeah.
I understand that property taxes are going to decrease. Do y'all have an update? And I know that we're getting a report, I guess, end of this month.
For your personal taxes, what the appraisal district told me is that we may be flat this year. So it wouldn't go down, but there shouldn't be a large increase in the value of your home. The state requires us to compress whatever growth there is and drop our tax rate to offset that after 2.5%. So we'll do that once we see what the values are, and we won't know that till July. But yeah, typically we've seen 8 and 10% gains, and they said probably the first issue we'll get from them will show about 3.5%, but typically when we get that one, when we finally settle out, it's about 3% less than that. So that's kind of what I'm hearing. I haven't seen any numbers, but from visiting with them, that's probably not going to be that large increase like you've seen in the past.
Okay, thank you.
Mm.
Thank you, thank you. Any other questions, comments, or discussion for Dr. Bigby?
Madam President, Dr. Smith, are there any social workers here joining us tonight?
No, I don't see any in the audience,
I had a question, but I can get back with you.
but we still may be able to answer the question.
I just wanted to know, is there enough? Should we hire more because of COVID? You know, should we hire more?
Well, sure, we would definitely could benefit from more. There's no doubt about it, to cover the number of students that we have and all the challenges that we're dealing with coming out of this year. Definitely. Dr. Alachko, we have 3? 2? Okay.
We have one that serves K-6 and then one that serves 7 through 12. And based on the fact that we only have 2, they really only focus on our homeless students, our foster care students, and our pregnancy-related
And, you know, last year when we were having this discussion, of course, we wanted more. However, you know, there's a lot of wants. At the end of the day, you only have so much. And so we chose to target our budget in some other areas. So that's what we could handle last
Right.
year.
I'm just thinking,
Yeah, but the need
Because of
is definitely
COVID.
there. Yes.
Great questions and comments and discussion. Any others?
Madam President, may I make a final summary
Absolutely.
points here? So just to make sure it's clear with the board. So we've heard the information that you shared with us this evening. And the team and I will begin to incorporate all this information as we continue to build the budget. And there may be more items that you will share along the way. The second thing is we're going to continue to push for enrollment and getting those students back in school. And then each month, as well as in weekly updates, I'll be providing you those numbers so that you can have a sense how things are trending along the way. The other thing is continuing to get information from the legislature to the best of our ability as we make predictions on what our enrollment is going to look like, and keeping you up to date again on how those numbers are trending, because it is so important to understand that that ADA is critical to the budget that we adopt. And since we do not know for sure what number of students are going to be returning in the fall, unlike any other year, again, this has never been an issue before, but this year is different. We don't know for sure how many are going to return, so it's very, very difficult for us to build that budget based on a hope. So I'll be making recommendations to you that will be more conservative in nature. And if we have a good problem, meaning in August and September, 400, 500, 600, 700 students show up, that's a good problem to have. And I'm hoping and praying we have that problem. But to build a budget based on that is just not something that we'd be able to do. So those are the things that I'll be following up, making sure that you're informed all along the way. As always, you know, we can meet and ask questions and get more detail. But I appreciate the feedback tonight, and we're going to do everything we can to capture everything that you prioritize for us tonight. So thank you for that information. And thank you, Madam President, for giving me those comments.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. And thank you again, Dr. Bigby.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments, or discussion? Trustee Savage Martin?
Just have a comment. It seems like we're going to have to really look at our spending and continuing programs, maybe halt them, but we're going to need to spend money on what brings in students. It's kind of a balancing act. So we can't spend money that's not directly tied to encouraging parents to bring their kids to Duncanville. That's kind of where we are.
That is so true. Thank you for that comment. Any others? Questions, comments, or discussion? Thank you, Dr. Bigby.
Thank you.
We will move to the information discussion agenda item B, summer school update, and the presenter is Dr. Kathy Sewell, or
Actually, Dr. Sewell is
Dr.
out
Malashka?
today, and so
Aren't we going to talk about B?
oh yeah, we'll get there.
Sorry.
I think that's the next one. You said D?
B. Boy.
Yeah, I have summer school, SB.
the mascots. You want to do the mascots first?
We can do the mascots now. Yeah?
Mhm.
Yes? I didn't turn it in my book, but yes. Okay, so we will move to the information item, agenda item B. That's the wrong number, that's why. Okay. District mascot. And the presenter is Dr. Halashka.
Thank you. Well, good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. Last month, the board approved for the district to move forward with adding a Leadership Academy Choice Program at Acton Elementary School. We are in the midst of our planning process and wanted to share with you this evening a proposal for discussion centered around the campus and district mascots. Next slide. In order to provide an overview of the current district mascots, you'll see from this slide that all of our secondary schools utilize the district mascot of Panthers, as well as one of our elementary schools, Fair Meadows Elementary. However, our intermediate and all other elementary schools all have unique mascots that were selected during the building design or redesign phase of the school. And we know that each mascot is historically relevant to that campus, but many of these campuses often utilize the overall district mascot of Panthers as well as their specific mascot. Next slide. It is my understanding that changing all campuses to a universal district mascot of Panthers was previously considered by prior administration, but was never executed beyond the middle school level. This could be why several of our elementary and intermediate campuses already align to the colors, symbols, and mascot of Panthers. In addition, we know that, of course, all of our students, no matter their elementary or intermediate campus, will be Panthers when they get to middle school and on through high school. As part of the planning for the Acton Leadership Academy, the consideration for changing the mascot arose due to the vision and how the students feed to Kennemer Middle School and the STEAM Academy. When we began looking into the history, as well as our current practices and even our new strategic core statements, it was clearly a good time to reevaluate the mascot at Acton as well as other campuses, starting with our intermediate schools. Next slide. We do recognize the historical connection some of our campuses, especially the earliest ones, have with their unique mascot. Therefore, we are recommending that if it is determined to make all of Duncanville ISD Panthers, that it be done over time to properly execute such a change and to prepare our communities. Since the intermediate schools already often align to the middle school and high school campuses, we would like to consider transitioning at least the 3 intermediate campuses and Acton Leadership Academy to Panthers for the 2021-22 school year. In order to transition all campuses, we have a 3-year transition timeline, but we're open to considering a different timeline based on board feedback. No matter our determined timeline, our execution strategies would include a communication plan for each campus that targets their specific community interest. We would also develop age-aligned graphics and discuss this transition with each campus planning committee to create a way to connect the campus's past with its future. And we also did share this proposal with our campus principals and also received positive feedback from them as well. As we have talked about before, tonight's presentation is just an information item as a way for administration to measure the position of the board and share our recommendation. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you this evening, and I will now turn it back over to Madam President at this time for questions, comments, and discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Halachka. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion for Dr. Halachka?
That's right.
Trustee Fahey?
Mr. McNeely, you may need to help me with this one. We started the old stop it. We've talked about this a few times in the past, and I'm not sure if it started with Scott Smith or Kevin Ozzie. Who was the football coach before, and you probably know, before Coach Samples?
Dykes?
Dykes.
Yes,
Coach Dykes.
Coach Dykes. I think he tried that. And it took for a little while, but it just kind of, Fair Meadows have been Panthers forever. I know for about over 30 years. It's my thought that if we do it, we might, first of all, before we do it, we might want to survey, because I think there's a lot of sentimentality and heartfelt. I think Janice was speaking to it a minute ago about Central and some of the older schools. But if we had a little survey online, get feedback from that, and it's just my opinion that if we're going to do this, that we just do it all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get the yes between the students and the kids, and to me, if we're all going to be Panthers, eventually we might as all just do it all at once. But that's just my opinion.
Thank you.
Trustee McNeely, would you speak into your mic, please? Oh, okay.
I just said, one of the reasons we stopped where we did was the main purpose of that was to everybody be Panthers, because we bought football uniforms and basketball uniforms and track and all that kind of stuff. We bought in bulk, and it was easier to buy in order when everybody was Panthers at that level. We don't buy a lot of uniforms for the elementary, so, you know, I go with what you want to do. I mean, I'm not going to, but that was the reason, was really more financial than anything.
Trustee Ivory?
What is our statement to the community and to parents of our rationale for going to all Panthers? What are we presenting to the community?
Our presentation to the community would be that we are all Panthers. All of our students go to one high school, and they all will be Panthers. So it is starting that culture, that climate, that spirit, that community tradition, starting that at the beginning from pre-K all the way up through high school. Because what we want is that tradition to be really instilled in our students, and they carry that with them all the way through. It creates that desire to stay here and to be a part of our community and a part of our district, and that's what we want.
And I think that that's important for the community to hear. That hasn't come up in our meeting, but I think our justification as unification, if that's our message, then that's what we're driven to do. And just as an educator at a high school, I understand that some come from different elementary or middle schools, and there's a problem by the time they get to high school, because you were a Mustang and you were this, and that's a part of the high school culture as well. So it would really benefit as far as unity is concerned on that end. And so I think it's just important that we make sure the community knows that we're not just changing everybody's name because it's simpler, but we're changing the names and getting a unified identity because we're about unity.
That's right.
Trustee Savage Martin?
I guess after our presentation on the budget, I would like to know, is it more cost to those campuses because they're changing? I assume they have a supply of T-shirts and pencils and stuff, or is it more cost effective? I hear it clearly on the middle schools, but on the other schools, can we afford that right now? When will that bring in more students? No. The only ones that care are the ones that have already graduated, And I have no axe to grind. Central was Central when I went there, Junior high was junior high when I went to the Reed building. So, there's nothing there. Panthers, it was always. And once you get into high school, but so many people, when we discussed this before, texted me, Facebooked me, asked me, why are we changing the mascots? And I could not give them a reason. I really thought we were going through with it, and then when I realized we weren't, I was happy about that. But It just, I'd need to see now, we need to be making decisions on budget, what is most cost effective? Because if the elementary needs more money because of the change, where's it gonna come from? It's gonna come from the district, you know, it's not gonna come from their regular allotment. So we need to ask ourselves questions when we have changes like this. And if a survey could go to alumni, that would be good.
Trustee Fahey.
And even if we were to change all the middle schools, the mascots to Panthers, because they do play football and basketball and all, but you really couldn't order bulk uniforms because they all have different colors. You know,
Already you're doing the middle schools, they're already Panthers.
Well, okay, but that's right, that's right, that's right. So we've got that, but we still maintain our colors, right? So there's still the, you know, the competition, especially Bird and Reed, they were always, and I had another thought too. Had to do with athletics. Okay, the Lady Pantherettes, they would still be always Pantherettes for
Always
basketball.
Panthers.
That can't be messed with.
Right.
And the girls softball team, they're Lady Panthers? Is that, okay. Do we call our girls soccer team or girls track team, or they Panthers? I'm just, really, I think they're Panthers. Not that it matters, but.
I'm going to look to Dr. Nex and go Pantherettes, the Pantherettes.
The soccer team are Pantherettes? Okay, the Pantherettes are basketball, girls basketball. Okay, okay. I want to be correct about this, what I'm yelling and screaming. And Lady Panthers are softball. Yes, correct. Okay.
Dr. Smith? Oh.
I'd just like to bring special attention to the Aztecs, that we really pay attention to that mascot, just all of the implications that we make sure when we're revisiting that we don't overlook that that's a group of people. And so I think that is an urgent consideration.
All right, thank you. Do we have?
I agree.
Yes.
And I think there was some concern back when we were talking about even the elementary schools being Panthers. Quite a few investments were made in some of the flooring or the things on the murals on the walls. And I think if alumni were assured that whatever's in stone or marble or on the ground or on the concrete and the cement could be there. We're not going to tear that up, but in the future, we will be Panthers, if that would be agreeable. Pardon me, Mr. McNeely? I think it's a good thing, but I can't hear you.
Are there any other questions, comments, or discussion?
So, Madam President, if I
Yes,
may,
Dr. Smith.
thank you, Board, for the feedback. This is exactly what we wanted this evening, to get some feedback and direction from you. And so now we will go and we will expand our conversation with stakeholders at large, either through survey or other informational avenues to gain their insight. We'll report that back to you, and then in addition to that, we'll be studying any cost implications. What are the cost implications of making such a transition? And then we'll be bringing that information back so that you can be better informed of when it's time to take action on this item.
Dr. Smith, when will you be, do you think you might bring this information back to us?
Give me at least until June. I don't think I can turn a survey around by the next board meeting.
Yeah, that's fair.
Give me some time to plan and really work through that. So let's target June.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Halashka.
Thank you.
And thank you, Board, for all the great questions, comments, and the discussion. We will now move to information agenda item C, summer school update, and the presenter is Ms. Tiffany King.
Forgot I could remove that. Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. This evening, I'm here to present a brief overview of our planning and design for our 2021 summer school programming. This summer, we have programs designated for student support and academic success, as well as programs designed for college readiness and student academic enrichment. We also are focusing on accelerated student learning in the areas of reading and mathematics. Our program priorities are centered around the following areas. First, we are offering academic programs for students who have failed for attendance and/or grades based on student data and their needs. Also, summer school support program is for accelerating student learning this summer in the specific areas of mathematics and reading. Moreover, we are also providing summer support to meet the unique learning needs of our various special student program populations. Finally, the summer will include multiple programs for college readiness and student academic enrichment services. Next slide, please. As you can see on this slide, we will be utilizing Hyman and Bill Hart's Elementary for our elementary acceleration programs. Hyman will have classes for our bilingual and general education students in the early childhood programs for pre-K and kindergarten. Additionally, our extended school year program, or ESY, will offer unique learning classes for summer education students based on their individual learning goals for this summer. This summer, the district will also provide academic classes for students who need compensatory learning time based on their individual education plans and committee recommendations. Bill Hart's will offer academic acceleration for students in grades 1st grade through 4th grade. This is a new acceleration focus for this summer, as we have students who will need increased support time for mathematics and reading. Next slide, please. Thank you. Kennemer Middle School will be the location for our academic acceleration classes for students who are in 5th through 8th grades. We will offer failure recovery programs for identified students who need summer learning in order to promote to the next grade level. Duncanville High School will offer academic classes for students to prepare for the end-of-course exams, and ESY for our special education support. Also, high school students can enroll in credit recovery courses to recover for failing grades, as well as sign up for credit acceleration courses to increase new course completion and gain additional academic credits in the summer months. PACE students will be provided sessions at DHS to earn high school course credits and hopefully graduate some students in the month of June. Lastly, Dallas College and DHS will instruct students in dual credit college coursework, allowing for students to increase their numbers of college credits while still in high school. Dallas College is currently offering only virtual courses this summer, so all instruction will be online. Next slide, please. The Advanced Academics Department has a variety of learning programs for creativity camps and STEM exploration, which is learning in science, technology, engineering, and math, as well as college readiness. Creativity camps will teach students how to develop their voices through writing and learning effective communication skills. Students will learn to write a resume and how to prepare and experience a job interview. During the final weeks of this program, students will work on creating a final self-promotion video highlighting their skills, their strengths, their abilities, and their future career aspirations. GT STEM camps will be offered where students will participate in various hands-on lab activities, as well as intentional STEM activities that highlight literacy. Using STEM-focused chapter books to inspire a love of science and storytelling, teachers will include strategies that improve reading skills. The Design, Connect, and Create STEM Camp for Girls will introduce participants to physics and various learning experiences. The Collegiate Academy has designed a summer bridge program to increase student understanding of the rigor and high academic expectations they will experience at Dallas College, as well as practice and preparation for students to academically be successful on the college entrance exams. Our CTE students will be participating in certification clinics and will be afforded the opportunity to gain the necessary skills to obtain industry-based certifications in the areas of cosmetology, culinary, and business. This will apply to our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. CTE students participating in enrichment camps in 5th through 8th grade will also be provided the opportunity to study career concepts with greater depth, breadth, and complexity, while also helping students to pursue their own areas of interest through exploration of various career clusters. Each middle school will provide a learning bridge this summer for their respective choice programs, highlighting STEM and arts for Kennemer Middle School, business and technology for Reed Middle School, and health science at Byrd Middle School. As a recap, this summer programming will have a focus on accelerated instruction for students, special services as listed on this particular slide, thank you, as well as bridge and academic enrichment programs. This summer, we are adding Friday as an extra instructional day. Fridays are going to be considered a Fabulous Friday and an incentive day for students where instruction will occur and with fun activities to celebrate students and their efforts throughout the week. Some new developments for improving summer instructional services include the following. We're going to utilize our newly launched NWEA MAP test for pre and post tests to measure students' progress in the summer. The expansion of classes to include 1st through 4th grades for this summer, and research of potential partnerships for summer curriculum pacing to ensure quality instruction pathways at all grade levels. Next slide, please. Thank you. The final slide includes a checklist for the board to see the multiple departments and areas of the district where we organize services and provide summer learning. It is a team effort surrounding the importance of having time and attention for students who take part in summer accelerated learning and enrichment. And next slide, please. Thank you for your attention this evening. At this time, I would be happy to answer any questions that the Board of Trustees may have.
Thank you, Ms. King. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion for Ms. King? Trustee Ivory?
Hi, Ms. King, that was a lot.
Good evening. Thank you.
I'm wondering, how are the students selected for summer school? Is this failed a 9-week, failed the entire semester? What criteria are we using?
Yes, ma'am. We're still in the process of finalizing the criteria. We're still early in April, and so we should have the materials finalized in the next 2 weeks, and so we can get that information to Dr. Smith so he can get it back to you all, how we'll finalize the selection process.
Okay. And the curriculum that's being used, this was a lot being offered. What curriculum are we using?
So currently, the plan is for our content coordinators to pull specific standards that are overlapping. So looking at vertically, if from 5th grade to 6th grade, we can look at SEs that are going to be a vertical contributor to them being successful in the next grade level. So we're looking at those SEs specifically. And then we're looking at resources and outsourcing our curriculum. So using our in-house resources and then potentially partnering with someone else in order to build the curriculum for us over the summer. We don't have a final answer on if we're going to use an outside source or not, but we will have that by the end of the month.
Okay. And our teachers, are they applying, or are they only DVL teachers? Are we open to other districts, teachers from different districts coming to help with this?
So I will follow up with Dr. Martinez, but we did send out 2 surveys to our teachers early in the spring, in January and in February, I guess late winter, to see their interest in teaching summer school. We did have a good interest in the amount of teachers that were willing to teach summer school this year. If we need to go outside of the district, we are open to going outside and contracting with other teachers outside of our district.
Okay, because I was just concerned about the amount of remediation that's still going to have to occur, even in the accelerated classes, because of the gap. So I was just wondering how we were selecting the teachers, because sometimes just the volunteers don't really do the job.
And Dr. Martinez, the selection process for the teachers? Okay. I'll let Dr. Martinez answer the selection process for the teachers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Superintendent and Board President and trustees. Thank you for the opportunity to respond to your question. I'm Sylvia Martinez. As it relates to the hiring of teachers, the application is currently open. Our summer school principals do vet, interview those selected applicants. In some cases, they speak with them over the phone. Our teachers do submit access to the current Google Classroom and also a video of their instruction. Is a process that we utilized last year and are repeating again this year.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion for Mrs. King? Thank you, Mrs. King, and thank you, Dr. Martinez.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move to the information discussion agenda item D, the COVID-19 pandemic plan and efforts update, and the presenter is Dr. Mark Smith.
Thank you there, Madam President. Each month, we bring to you data relating to our COVID procedures. We've got lots of updates for you all, vaccination updates, updates centered around how our students are performing, and updates centered around what our plan is to continue to accelerate the learning. So Dr. Halachka and her team are on the boots on the ground, really on a day-to-day basis, and they're doing an awesome job. And I'd like to turn it over to you, Dr. Halachka, to update the board.
Thank you so much. Well, good evening again, Madam President, trustees, and Dr. Smith. It is my pleasure to share with you this evening our work as it relates to mitigating the effects and impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and how we're going above and beyond to ensure safety, wellness, and success of our staff and our students and staff. As we have demonstrated throughout this pandemic, our goal is to continue to excel despite the circumstances we have faced due to COVID-19. Tonight, we'll share important data points, including our COVID testing and vaccines, as well as an update on our innovative Wi-Fi on Wheels initiative. I will begin by giving you an update on our current enrollment and attendance numbers. I do want to note that the data in tonight's presentation was updated today to give you the most current information. As you are aware, this data changes daily, therefore the numbers in your board book might look slightly different. Throughout the year, our student enrollment has remained consistent with 11,844 students currently enrolled. We are continuing to focus on addressing student attendance through intervention efforts and encouraging our parents to monitor their child's engagement. We are diligently tracking our in-person student engagement as well so that our last 6 weeks of the year are meeting those hold harmless targets discussed by Dr. Bigby earlier this evening. The method in which students have chosen to learn has shifted quite a bit for the fourth 9 weeks, from 50.72% to 59.65%. There are several students that requested to return in person, and then there was a group of students that we required to return in person due to excessive absences. Of the over 800 students that we required to return in person, 214 accepted and 187 have actually returned. Between those students that have selected to return in person and those that we required to return in person, the outcome has been very positive. We have over 70% of elementary students back in person, 57% at the intermediate level, 68% at the middle school level, and 41% at the high school level. Having our students back in person is significant in mitigating the learning loss of our students. So when it comes to our student COVID cases, we have seen a significant decline and currently only have 3 positive student cases that have been on campus as of the date noted on this slide and have been on campus in the past 14 days. We saw a small increase after spring break due to family gatherings and birthday parties, but it was very limited and isolated. We are continuing to maintain high safety standards, including the requirement of staff and students to wear masks and maintain social distancing to the greatest extent possible. When social distancing is not feasible, we make sure that the plexiglass shields, like you have in front of you this evening, are used, as well as the hand sanitizer and our sanitation misting systems. We believe these efforts are why less than 3% of our enrolled students have been confirmed as having the virus this year. We continue to communicate positive cases through an email campus-wide notification and also notify anyone that was exposed or in close contact. Our website dashboard is also maintained with the current on-campus cases. I do want to highlight that our athletic trainers and coaches at the high school go even a step further, and they contact each parent of athletes that may have been exposed. This is just one of the many examples of how our staff is going above and beyond every day to communicate and mitigate any transmission of the virus. I will now turn it over to Ms. Kathleen Brown to discuss the staff COVID numbers.
Good evening. We will now take a look briefly at our staff COVID numbers. We've had a total of 339 positive COVID cases and staff members since the start of the pandemic. Currently, there are only 3 active positive cases in staff members. Staff members recently had the opportunity to take the 2nd dose of the vaccine, and we've received positive feedback about that. It is our hope that we will continue to see a decrease in COVID cases for the remainder of the school year. Unlike student cases after spring break, we didn't have very many staff cases, and so we believe that with the vaccine in place, with those safety protocols in place, that we will finish strong for the remainder of the school year. I'll turn it back over to Dr. Halachka.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Starting in January, we were able to initiate our COVID testing program for employees and have tested 325 staff members and have remained at 12 employees with positive test results since the program started. We are continuing to offer testing to our staff members on campus through our nurses. We know that this has been a program that has been really appreciated by our staff members and gives a great sense of peace for many. On March 26, Duncanville ISD partnered with Methodist Charlton to provide vaccines to our staff members and community. Several employees had already received their vaccine through our partnership with Parkland Hospital, but we still had another 316 staff members that received their vaccine on site during our Methodist Charlton clinic. We also opened our clinic up to community members, parents, and partners, which resulted in another 719 stakeholders receiving vaccines. In one day, Duncanville ISD was able to get 1,035 adults vaccinated and protected. These same participants came back on Friday, April 16th for their 2nd vaccine, and we were able to fully protect 955 of the 1,035 initial participants. Although we do not have an exact number of total employees vaccinated, we can confirm that approximately 730 of our employees have received 1 or both doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. We are celebrating the great success of this partnership and will continue to seek opportunities that will support the safety and well-being of our district and community. I'll now turn it over to Mrs. Fields to discuss our Wi-Fi on Wheels initiative.
Tonight, Board, I want to give you just a very brief update on our Wi-Fi on Wheels program. It's really been a pleasure for the Transportation Department to support this important learning initiative for our virtual scholars. The data that you have on the screen there shows it's really from January the 11th, which was the launch date, until about mid-March. We're continuing to gather data usage, but as more students have returned back to in-person instruction, we're experiencing really a slight decline in the number of students who are accessing the Wi-Fi on Wheels program. Reminder, Board, we monitor the overall data usage by bus location. We have 4 Wi-Fi on Wheels buses. The students log on to an address that we have provided them by bus and not their individual login, as they would if they were in the classroom or on one of our platforms such as Google Classroom. However, they can access all the virtual learning platforms and assignments provided by their teachers when they log on at the Wi-Fi buses. For safety, we still have the content filters and protections in place to access for our students so that they can be protected, and for others to not be able to access unapproved sites and searches. And we have had a bit of that by adults who've tried to access other sites. The slide shows that bus number 86 was the highest, with the highest data usage, with almost 1,350 megabytes over this initial period. To give you a context of the megabyte, of course, if we were to take a photo with our phone uses, that photo takes about 1 megabyte. So when you think about it, it's about 1,350 photos if you want to talk about the data usage with that. Or to download one Netflix movie, it takes about 700 megabytes. And so overall, we've had the interest there at bus number 86, which of course is the top user, and it is at the landings, the landings at Bluff Ridge, which is really at the corner of Clark and Camp Wisdom, and of course that is close to Acton, Smith, Daniel, and Hyman. Bus 85 is our next bus with the numbers, and it is at the Renaissance Apartments, and it covers basically Merrifield, Hardin, Reed, Byrd, Brandenburg, and Alexander. Buses 87 and 86 bring up the rear, and those buses are located at the Meadows on Merrill Apartments and 800 Links Apartments, respectively. Bus 87, of course, covers Central, Hardin, Pace, High School, and then Bus 88, the high school, Duncanville High School, Collegiate Academy, Bill Hart's, and Hastings. Would note, Board, that students can access and log on at any location. They don't have to go to where the buses are covered, and we've placed them there just to see what kind of access we would have. Of course, we're going to continue to monitor the data by bus locations, and we'll evaluate again by the end of the year so that we can tweak the program or move buses to other locations. And I'm going to turn it back to Dr. Halachka.
Well, this concludes our COVID-19 pandemic plan update for this month. It is always a privilege to share the efforts we're making to ensure our schools are safe for staff and students. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Halachka. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion for Dr. Halachka? Trustee Colton?
I just want to say that I'm very proud of the way that Dr. Smith and the district staff have just operated, you know, during this period of time. Everything from, you know, the buses to sack lunches to the, you know, adapting, in a virtual environment to, these dividers. I'm just amazed, and I'm very proud. And, our students have really benefited from them. So I just really want to thank each and every one of you all for everything that you have done, all your hard work, the long hours, and just even the insight and the way that you all just work together to make all of this happen. Thank you all very much. We just can't thank you all enough. So, I just wanted to say thank you, basically.
Thank you for the feedback.
Trustee Ivory.
I just wanted to say one of my family members took advantage of the testing on site, and I accompanied him on both the first and the second, and it was a very well-oiled machine. The people there were kind, they were upbeat. The system was very organized from beginning to end. So I was really proud to be able to see that for myself and experience it. So thank you, guys.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Trustee Colton and Trustee Ivy, thank you all for that feedback. And I think it's echoed by the board. We do appreciate all that you all are doing. Thank you, Dr. Smith, for leading the team. Thank you, Dr. Halachka. Thank you, Mrs. Brown, and thank you, Mrs. Fields, for your reports. We will now move to information discussion agenda item E, the job fair, and the presenter is Ms. Kathleen Brown.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Smith, Board of Trustees. It's my pleasure to present this evening and give you information about the virtual job fair. Annually, Duncanville ISD, next slide. Annually, Duncanville ISD participates in approximately 20 job fairs to recruit talent for the district. The opportunities we seek to recruit are aligned to the high-need areas. Some of our high-need areas, as you know, are bilingual teachers, secondary science, math, and CTE. Local colleges and universities provide the opportunity for us to recruit new graduates to start their careers here in Duncanville. One of our annual targeted recruiting opportunities is participating in the Bilingual Education Student Organization Institute, of which we've participated over the last 5 years. So I'll stop here just to give you some insight. Duncanville ISD it's not novel to the shortage in specific areas across the United States. And here specifically in Texas, we have a shortage of teachers in specific areas: bilingual education, secondary math and science, and CTE. The District of Innovation approach has helped us some in those CTE categories. However, equity gaps are still our truth as it relates to recruiting bilingual teachers to our district. And when I talk about equity gaps, I'm speaking of the number of individuals who are graduating from a four-year institution across the United States. Here in Texas, California, and Florida, we have seen increases, but to give you context, 10 years ago, less than 10 years ago, there were only 19% of individuals graduating with a four-year degree in the U.S. Who were Hispanic or of Latino background. Over those 10 years, we've only increased to 24%. And so as a district, we know that that's something we had to look internally to see, what do we do? So I'd love to share with you a couple of the things that we were able to take in consideration here as a district, and then share more about our job fair. So we've talked before about our Grow Your Own Stay at Home and Grow Your Own Come Back Home programs that were a grant in collaboration with the CTE department. Our Grow Your Own Come Back Home is related to TAFE. So our students at the high school who are going to become teachers in the future, we have a partnership with them, with our Human Resources Department, by which over the last few years, every one of those students, when they graduate, they have their educational aid certification. That is strategic in nature because we want them to be able to become educational aides right here in Duncanville while they're going to school. Many of those students will start off at community colleges or universities that are local, and they have that need to continue to work. And so they're able to do that, and then once they go to the four-year institution, come back and do their student teaching here in Duncanville. Great recruiting opportunity for us. The Grow Your Own Stay-at-Home opportunity is another endeavor that our district has had this year. Specific areas, those same high-need areas that I shared with you. That grant allows for any of our instructional aides or our substitutes who hold a bachelor's degree already to get their certification at no cost to them. And so we've seen great success with that. A lot of times, anyone. They don't continue to go to school because they need to continue to work and provide for their family. And so with this opportunity, they can do that while they're still working here in Duncanville ISD. So those are just a couple of the opportunities that we have. Our relationship with NABE, which is the National Association of Bilingual Educators, is also one of our partnerships. And we have individuals who go in to recruit bilingual teachers for our district. One of our largest recruitment efforts, however, is our internal annual district job fair. As you may recall, last year, just when we went out for the pandemic, the job fair was scheduled for the Saturday that we would have returned. And as we know, we were not able to hold that job fair. Our signs were out, everything was prepared and ready, and we were not able to do that. However, we knew that the need would still be there to recruit for our district, so we had the opportunity to participate in multiple virtual job fairs. So although we were working from home, staff members in Duncanville participated at virtual fairs with multiple colleges and universities, multiple alternative certification programs, and it's kind of like speed dating, if I could equate it to something, only through typing. You never saw the person. And so that was very different for us as a district because we're used to having that face-to-face interaction with our candidates, talking to them about the excellence they can only find in Duncanville ISD, and instantly that was taken away. And so we learned a lot about what our need would be should the pandemic continue, which it did, and we started thinking about what would a virtual job fair look like in Duncanville. Next slide. So upon our return from the pandemic, of course, that need to recruit staff to join our district remained a top priority. And so as a district, we planned our first virtual job fair. We used those experiences that we had last spring, recruiting from home, to help us plan. And then we set these goals out. First, our first goal was to recruit the best talent for Duncanville ISD, because that's what helps us be great. All of the things that we've talked about tonight, we know that they don't happen without the amazing staff that we have. Our second goal was to give candidates an experience that reflected the excellence that we provide here in the district. Third goal was to be personable. We want the opportunity to be personable, to interact face-to-face. So although those previous job fairs that we'd experienced, we were only typing back and forth, we were looking for a way where we could actually see those candidates, even if virtual, face-to-face. And then also to model the engaging experiences that we provide for students in person and virtually each day. So as you recall, all of a sudden, our teachers who were used to teaching face-to-face were setting up Google Classrooms. They were learning new skills. I mean, as a staff here in the district, we all were learning those skills together. And so we wanted to model that for those who we were bringing on board in the event that that's the way that instruction continued to look here in the district. Next slide. So with everyone masked up and not able to get out as much, our marketing for the job fair also took on a different look. Some of the things that we've done in the past, we continue with that, with those things. And so you can see here on this slide the list of things that in collaboration with our communications team, we were able to provide to recruit for our virtual job fair. I'm sure you may have seen it in Southwest Magazine, our billboards on the interstate, different signage, Ms. Berger's wonderful voice on the radio. My kids had a little game to count how many times they'd hear Ms. Berger in the car before we got home. They were like, Mom, everybody's going to be at the job fair. That is the plan. And so, of course, the signs to the left you can see were the signs that you would see out. And then we had over 60,000 door hangers that were put in various zip codes, Lancaster, Grand Prairie, DeSoto. We needed to get the word out as much as possible. In talking to districts who had virtual job fairs already, it was a little discouraging at first because they were saying, we only have 120 people, or we only had 150, we had 75. And so we do everything in big and better in Duncanville. And so our goal still was 1,000 or more, as we've had in person in the past. And so next slide, please. So our job fair registrants, I will say, districts have been amazed. Our staff buckled down, and we had over 1,000 applicants pre-register for our job fair, our virtual job fair. So it was a little scary because that was our goal, but we wanted to make sure that that experience aligned with the goals that we'd set on the front end of our job fair. So the document that you're looking at was the Welcome to Your Virtual Job Fair newsletter that all pre-registered candidates received. Gave them information about what their experience would look like on that day, what our expectations were of them as far as those housekeeping guidelines, having their cameras on, all of the same things basically that we do with students in the virtual environment on a daily basis. Next slide. Okay, and so before we look at what the virtual job fair entailed, I would be remiss if I did not bring attention. Of course, in the HR department, we're good, but we could not pull this off without the help of the Bitmoji people that you see here on the screen. And so I'd ask that our instructional technology coordinators please stand at this time. Have you all remain standing here for a moment. As I was stating, we thought really big about what we wanted this to look like. And before embarking on something like this, we needed to find a platform that could do the very thing we wanted it to do. And so our instructional technology coordinators were brought to the table. They brought some fantastic ideas of different platforms we could use, but none of those platforms really got us to what we wanted to see as a district. So they had one part, but not the other. And then we sat through multiple demos, and we're a little discouraged. They had high price tags, but could not deliver what we wanted. So the freeze worked out really well for us. And so everyone went home because everything was frozen. And I will say that these three individuals, when we came back, they were communicating with me even during that time. And when we came back, they designed a platform for our district during that time while we were out that met the needs of what our goals were for the job fair. So we couldn't have done it without you, and I'm very thankful for the freeze. All right, so I won't make you all stand for this part because I know you all have seen it, but we will go to the next slide at this time. So the first thing that I'd want you to see is a navigation video. This was designed by, our theme became the Dream Team with our strategic plan and what we are, who we are as a district. And you just saw our amazing basketball team here. And so coming to Duncanville is joining the Dream Team, no matter if you're an athlete, what you do. And so Bitmojis became our theme. And we'll take a look now at our navigation video.
Hello, and thank you for taking a moment to view this instructional video on how to navigate through the virtual job fair for Duncanville Independent School District. Be sure to click on the basketball to proceed to the following pages. Once you've navigated to the listings of campus levels and departments, click on a specific link to learn about the opportunities associated with the campus level or department of your choice. If you've navigated to a campus level, select the principal of the campus that you'd like to visit. View the information associated with that campus by clicking on the elevator. View the menu of information on the right and select the button that corresponds to the information on the left. After viewing all information, find the link that leads to the virtual meet and greet for the chosen campus or department to meet campus staff and receive further information. If If you encounter challenges with technology or issues with successfully navigating through the virtual job fair, please click on the Idea Team logo and we'll gladly assist you with your specific needs. We hope you have an enjoyable day of learning about all of the opportunities that this wonderful District of Champions has to offer. Thank you for expressing interest in joining the Dream Team. Best of luck.
All right. So that is the video that our applicants or our registrants would see as soon as they logged in, so that they would have an idea of what the experience would be like no matter what campus or department they were visiting. And so next slide, please. So as you saw, they would go to this landing page, and you can see all of the different grade levels are there. A variety of our campus, of our departments are there. Our auxiliary teams were there, ready to greet them as they entered the job fair. Next slide. Okay, just so you can take a look at the landing page for those various campuses, you can see every single one of our principals had a Bitmoji ready, and so candidates would click on that Bitmoji and it would take them to the information about that specific campus, and they could go through the different floors. So that elevator theme that Dr. Reed developed for us was very essential, because no matter what campus I went to, I would go to floor 1 and there would be a video of the principal meet and greet where the principal gave some information about the campus. If I went to floor 2, I could take a virtual tour of the campus and really see what the campus looked like. So I could see the data for that campus. I could see what the postings and openings were for that specific campus. And next slide, please. And then this is a view of just some of the departments. You see here on the top, our CTE departments page. You can see the purchasing and warehouse page, fine arts, as well as special education. And this was the same. If you notice that door that's on every page, that was the different feature that we needed. We didn't want them just typing. Upon entering that door, you'd go into a waiting room where in some cases there was someone there to greet you and talk to you, have you sign in, make sure we had a digital copy of your resume, and then they brought you into the Zoom room. And in that room, you were able to interact face-to-face and have a virtual interview with principals, our teams. If you can imagine how many administrators and different departments are at our high school, they had what we call breakout rooms. So if you were a science person, they were able to push you over to talk to the science team. If you were math, you were speaking face-to-face with individuals for the math team. And if they really liked you, they would schedule you for a face-to-face interview at the campus. And in some cases, they were held on that day, and we were able to give intent to hire letters, which we typically would give out at our own job fair. An intent to hire letter, next slide, please, is a letter that we give you at the job fair. So we haven't run your background. We haven't done those things where we can officially say we want you to be on the dream team. But our intent to hire you letter says we intend to hire you if you meet all of the qualifications. Your background is good, your references, you have the right certification, all of those things. And so another page that they were able to click on, just like the Idea Hub, if I need technology support, they were able to click on the Human Resources tab. HR staff there was to speak to them about any other things in those drawers. If they click those drawers, that information would pop up, just readily available for them, so they learn about incentives. For example, our bilingual teachers, highlighting the fact that they receive a $5,000 signing bonus paid over 2 years, and then also that they receive $4,000 annually. We didn't want them to dig for anything, everything right there at your fingertips. And then upon entering the HR door, you could speak with any HR team member in a breakout room, whether you wanted to be a substitute, you needed to know anything about certification, you were just having trouble with the virtual platform. Next slide, please. All right. In addition, there was also support for our recruiters. This was a huge endeavor. It took everyone here on our team, making sure that, it went off without a hitch. So our recruiters received multiple training opportunities and individualized sessions in preparation for the job fair. Again, our instructional technology coordinators were critical to that piece. They were willing to meet one-on-one, help them design pages if they need help. And then it became a competition. We always love a good, healthy competition here in Duncanville. And so everybody wanted their page to be better than the next. And so also the list of registrants for the job fair, we wanted to be proactive. Those were sent to campuses ahead of time because some of them wanted to shop and call people earlier and say, hey, come to my campus first. And so that worked out very well. The picture you see here are two of our HR team members. We always have lunch at the job fair provided, and so lunch was delivered by HR team members to every campus and every department so that we could make sure we were following safety protocols and still that we didn't starve them. It went a little longer because it was virtual. It's typically ending at 12. We went until 2 o'clock. And again, those letters of intent to hire were provided to those outstanding candidates. So a little bit of the feedback, next slide please, that we received from those who attended. We just pulled some of them that emailed us. Some people were just coming, they already had a job and they wanted to come see what it was going to be like, because we were bragging so much. And so the first one, for example, says very well executed. I'm currently employed in another district. That district had their job fair the same day of us, I might add. But I attended the job fair to see what the experience would be like. After experiencing the Duncanville ISD job fair, I'm strongly considering coming to Duncanville ISD. I can tell there is a great culture of excellence here. And that person is being recommended for a position here in the district. And so I won't read all of them to you, but those are just some of the feedback that we've received from our candidates. Next slide, please. So our next steps are hiring, of course, is underway for the upcoming school year. Of course, what you typically see in closed session is only about this year. And so on May, we start having our virtual new hire orientations for new employees. So you'll begin to see those certified staff members coming on that list. The district is going to still participate in several virtual job fairs this spring. They won't be like the Duncanville Fair, but we will be participating to make sure that we're getting great talent. And depending on the number of openings we still have in June, June 18th is the last day for a certified employee to resign from their position in Duncanville ISD if they have a Chapter 21 contract. We may have an additional in-district virtual job fair. Now that that platform is built, it is very simple for us to turn that around, and so we're very excited about that. So I do want to show you one other video that we will end with, and that is the video from our superintendent, Dr. Smith, welcoming our candidates to the job fair. So once they got there, they saw this video, and then they received their navigation instructions.
Welcome to the Duncanville ISD Virtual Job Fair. I certainly hope that you are ready to join the dream team. In Duncanville ISD, we are writing success stories one student at a time. We believe it's important to invest in our staff by providing the tools and the training to be successful. So whether you're teaching, driving a bus, or serving meals, your success means student success. Our school district continues to expand student opportunities and develop educators. Our Grow Your Own program helps paraprofessionals earn their teaching certificate at no cost. And we also offer a robust, inspiring leadership academy that's focused on developing our next generation of administrators. In Duncanville ISD, we are indeed the city of champions. We have a strong athletic program, our state championship winning basketball teams, and all of our other athletic programs are performing at a high level. But we also are a district of excellence with our academics. We have a number of academic programs in our district. Our Collegiate Academy is one of many where we're going to have 80+ students that are graduating with an associate's degree as well as their high school diploma. So this is what we do in developing the whole child in Duncanville ISD. And I want you to be a part of that. And so I hope you learn a lot today about Duncanville ISD, about what we have to offer in our school district, and why this should be your district of choice, and this should be your next home.
Okay, so I appreciate you listening to our presentation about the job fair, and I will turn it back over to Madam President for any questions, comments, or discussion.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Trustee Fahey?
This presentation was one of the most entertaining ones I think I've ever seen. That's exciting. I know you'd prefer in person, but my goodness, I want to play that. Can I play like I want a job and play the game? the elevator and the files, that's just so cute. And the little people, it's so cute.
Thank you.
I just want to take a moment to thank the instructional technology coordinators, Mrs. Brown, Mr. Haynes, and Dr. Reed. You all did an amazing job, and we appreciate you for your commitment to Duncanville and your sharing your talent and just going above and beyond to make it a great experience for everyone involved. So thank you for your time and your knowledge and expertise. I think, is there anything else? Any other questions, comments, or discussion for Mrs. Brown before we move to the next? No? Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. And, okay, so now we will now move to communication from citizens. And we do not have any communications from citizens, but I would like to thank everyone that participated in this meeting tonight, everyone that's sharing their talents, their gifts with Duncanville. We love you all and appreciate you. So being that there is no further business items to discuss, this meeting is adjourned.